All right, I believe we're live. So, all right, guys, today's date, September 26, 2018, and this is how the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most, Will Buchanan. I'm here to bring about some events that have truly just been on the crazy side, and I do mean crazy side. Like I said, this podcast is all about just bringing to attention exactly everything that's been going on this week and simply trying to make sense of it all. Before we get into this big old shindig, I do have to always give the disclaimer. Disclaimer being that this is an adult podcast with adult nature, where adult content and language may be used. Viewer discretion advised. So if that's not your cup of tea, please make the necessary adjustment. And we'll give three people 3 seconds to do that. And it's been 3. All right. So for everybody else, welcome. Thanks, guys, for coming on. And usually, well, actually, this time, I should say this time. I apologize. This week's going to be a little bit of a short. This podcast is going to be a little bit of a short one. And by short one, I mean we're not going to be going over a lot of subjects. Reason being is because out of the multiple stories that have come out, there seems to be one thing that just seems to resonate a lot with the stories we're about to go over. And a lot of it has to deal with perception, and a lot of it has to deal with the state of how we see things. So with that being said, I do want to talk about, like I said, Judge Kavanaugh. Unless you've been under a rock the last couple of weeks, Judge Kavanaugh, Agent Orange's pick for the Supreme Court, has been under a lot of scrutiny. Scrutiny to where now there are multiple allegations of sexual assault and misconduct, things of that nature have been brought against him. So let's start with that, because there's just no way I can put this very nicely. So let me just go ahead and start with the first one. And I'm going to go ahead and start this first video so that way you guys see where we're coming from on this before we get to the big one. And I say the big one because, that's the one I'm going to get into. But first, let me actually play this video, because this is explaining where we are with Kavanaugh so far as his interview, that is.
Head of crucial hearings going on national television, in this case Fox News, to defend himself against allegations of wrongdoing.
I'm not going to let false accusations drive us out of this process, and we're looking for a fair process where I can be heard and defend my integrity, my lifelong record of
Sorry, gang. I just now noticed the camera froze. So give me 1 second. We're going to try to bring that up again. So just give me a second here. What I wanted to pretty much show in that situation was that Kavanaugh, how can I put this ever so nicely? The guy looks like a creep. Oh, okay, there we go. So let me play it from here.
Questioning and have not questioned that perhaps Dr. Ford at some point in her life was sexually assaulted by someone in some place. But what I know is I've never sexually assaulted anyone.
A Fox News interview is not the same as an FBI interview. And if he's willing to talk to Fox News about his views, I don't understand why he's unwilling to talk to the FBI so they could do a proper investigation. He said over and over again, you want to say fair hearing? Well, a fair hearing means you have an FBI that investigates the facts, establishes a set of facts, that interviews not only Kavanaugh, but corroborating witnesses, and then have a hearing where it's not just a he said, she said scenario, but a scenario where you do have people who have knowledge of these events. I'd like to hear Mark Judge testify under oath, not only with the FBI, but in a hearing. I'd also like to hear from the therapist, have her produce her notes, from Dr. Blasey Ford's husband, from her friend, and other corroborating witnesses with the second allegation.
So it's interesting. Well, here's also the one thing I wanted to bring up. Number one, check Kavanaugh's wife. She was literally not making eye contact with him. And the thing about it is, it always kills me as Republican defense 101. if the husband is accused of sexual misconduct, rape, assault, battery, what have you, he always has to have the wife present. Like, that's going to reassure us. His wife looked fucking terrified. Terrified, didn't want to look him in the eye. I mean, she tried. I couldn't really show the rest of you. I apologize. It was a little bit on the long side. But it's the whole thing about it is just that she was distant. She tried to answer questions. Kavanaugh interrupted her. And he had this whole thing of, no matter what, I'm going nowhere. I'm going nowhere. And I'm like, dude, you literally have not one, not two, now three. Now, the reason why I bring this up in polarity is because, unless, like I said, unless you've been under a rock, I think you would know that there was another individual that was accused of multiple women accused this gentleman of sexual assault and things of that nature. And I think the number was up to 55 at one point, but he's only been gotten for one. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. They finally got him. They finally got their man. Bill Cosby. They finally got him, folks. A sexual violent predator. An 81-year-old sexual violent predator who has just been sentenced to 3 to 10 years in a state prison. Now, I know for a lot of people, that's going to be like, he only got 3 to 10 years? Well, yeah, because they only convicted him on one count of sexual assault, which got him 3 to 10 years. Now, I have been saying this from Jump Street. I have been saying this. So before anybody else gets on this bandwagon of, well, Will, you was wrong about Bill Cosby. He was guilty. I said, no. Before we get on that bandwagon, let me reiterate what I've always been saying about Bill Cosby. I've always sat there and said, due process needs to happen instead of popular public opinion, because the court of public opinion can influence the court system. Now, albeit these women came 40 years later, and that can bring some doubt. But if he is found guilty, then he is found guilty. Let that be the end of it. I mean, no matter how you feel about the situation, whether you're on the side of, they only came after him because he's black and that he's a high profile and that he was poised to buy NBC, or you can sit there and say that all these women were out to get something. I mean, you can go down the line of whatever you choose to go with as your perception. But the perception, the factor is, granted, there was a trial, a retrial, and a mistrial, and then another retrial. And I mean, at the end of it all, they finally got him. And to me, it kind of feels like, for a lot of people, a hollow victory. Like I sat there and said before about Bill Cosby. Now, granted, this all happened 40 years ago. There's no evidence. But the reason why I bring this up is just that how tenuous, how completely tenuous that they went after this man and pursued this man. And I mean, hounded him. I mean, granted, it seemed to be rightfully so. I mean, he was convicted. So, he was charged. He was found guilty by a jury of his peers. So again, it's the fact that they pursued this man as if he was already guilty before he was found guilty. But again, that's court of public opinion. So the reason why I want to show this video is basically because of what his lawyer said, which was kind of interesting. Sorry, guys. Okay, so as you can see right there, I mean, literally you saw him being walked into the car. Okay, so his lawyer, which was another clip, which I did not have loaded, I apologize, was basically along the lines of, well, this is a conspiracy and all this stuff. And of course, Cosby didn't chose to appeal the decision, at least not yet, as he's about to go, as he's already in state prison at this point. But the reason why I bring this up is because the simple fact of the matter is, and like I said before, you have an individual who was, for the better part of a year, hounded, brought to trial, investigated, indicted, all you have. Now, okay, so here's my proposition for all those who were screaming for Cosby to be in jail. Where is your anger for Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey, Bill O'Reilly, Charlie Wilson? I mean, we can go down the list of people who are now under the spotlight. And I'm not saying it's because of the Me Too movement. I'm not saying because now those who were affected are coming out and start speaking the truth. But I'm saying for all those that have been accused and all those that have stepped away and all those, and this is what I'm saying, like Bill O'Reilly, again, he was found, I mean, the man settled out of court and he paid off. I mean, well, they settled for a settlement of like 30 million plus. But again, his accusers got paid. Bill O'Reilly is not in jail. Kevin Spacey stepped off every project he's worked on. Still not being indicted. Harvey Weinstein has literally stepped away from his company. But as you can see, he's still out and about. Now, I can be honest with you and just go literal point. Bill Cosby's a black man, and he's immediately put in jail. Be honest, guys, and I apologize for the camera freezing again, but Bill Cosby is a black man. I just described 3 prominent white figures who have yet to see a day in court. Okay, sorry guys, Trump just ain't gonna let us be great tonight, but we're gonna keep this ball rolling because I'm not giving up on this. So if you look at it, it's like, what do we have? I mean, the simple fact of the matter is you have 3 prominent figures who are still not even in a court trial. So what does that say a lot about the way we view things? What does that say a lot about the way that apparently if you're a prominent black man, more than likely you're going to be processed faster than a white man? And oh, hey, Yvonne, what'd you say? Does Harvey have footage of him? No, he's admitted. Here's the trippy part. Now that you bring that up, Vaughn, here's the trippy part. Harvey Weinstein said when he was being investigated and interviewed, he admitted that he turned sexual favors for roles in movies. He's already admitted it. So again, he's admitted to the fact that he used his power, he used his position as an abusive power to get sexual favors from women. Ladies and gentlemen, you have a confession. This honestly be slam dunk. Kevin Spacey tried to come out of the closet as gay to save his career, but again, there's smoke and there's fire there. Charlie Sheen is another one. He was also accused, and as you can see, he hasn't been in jail yet, and he sat there and admitted. And I just find it interesting that in the justice system, that a white man could sit there, and I'm sorry if I say white man, but let's just be honest. A white man could sit there, admit what he's done, and yet as long as he pays off said people, he never sees a day in jail. Bill Cosby denies the 50 plus women he's after, and they only get him for 1, and he's in prison. So it doesn't matter. And I've come to that conclusion. I said the perception of it all is until someone can explain to me why Harvey Weinstein, Bill O'Reilly, Charlie Sheen, and so many others who have now been shined a light on by the Me Too movement and those that they have hurt, how in the blue hell are they still not in court? Matter of fact, we're the 19 women that accused Agent Orange of sexual misconduct. I mean, come on, you had 19 women. He was getting up to Bill Cosby stats. 19 women, and yet nothing. The only thing that's constant is the porn star, Stormy Daniels. She's the only constant right now that has legal records, legal documents filed in a court against Donald Trump. So out of 19 women that accused, one is actually got a case. I almost want to sit there and say it is a hard truth, because that's why I say, that's why a lot of black people, like, when we sit there and say about justice, you can't sit there and tell us that there's something not up. I mean, you can't sit there and tell us there's something not up about the way not only the nature of our society is handled, but still the fact of the matter is the justice system is geared toward minorities. I mean, think about it. Even if you have money or not, you still get treated the same if you're a minority. It's different if you are white. Because, like I said, you have 5 men that have been accused of the same thing Bill Cosby's done. Bill Cosby's in jail. Those are the 5 white men, for all we know right now, are still free, still doing their thing, still living it up. So until that actually happens, that is exactly the problem I have with this. Not the fact of whether or not Cosby is innocent or guilty, because he's had his process. At this point, it's on him on whether or not he did it. It's not my place to judge or see or whatnot. But my thing is, which annoys me so, is just that how in a court of law can this be explained? But going back to Kavanaugh again, it's just that Kavanaugh at this point is simple like Bill Cosby again. It's like another Bill Cosby type. And I'll play this video and I'll show you why. Because like I said, this is number 3. And then this is the reason why this is so vital is because, again, he's a pick for the Supreme Court. Supreme Court is a lifetime appointment. And right now, if he's at it, that would be leaning toward the whole Supreme Court would be conservative minded, which means leans to the right, which means they can undo a lot of the decisions that have already been made by Supreme Court. But here's what they said so far about the third woman.
Third accuser threatening to derail the already tenuous prospects of President Trump's Supreme Court nominee.
The details in this declaration are specific. They are shocking, but above all else, they are true. And my client stands behind them 100%.
The allegations from Julie Swetnick, who alleged in a signed affidavit she attended well over 10 parties where she saw Judge Brett Kavanaugh, then in high school, drink excessively at many of these parties and engage in abusive and physically aggressive behavior towards girls. Swetnick also claiming Kavanaugh and others would spike the punch to cause girls to become inebriated and disoriented, so they could then be gang raped in a side room or bedroom. Later adding, I became the victim of one of these gang or train rapes where Mark Judge and Brett Kavanaugh were present. Swetnick does not say they assaulted her or the other girls. And while Swetnick says she's aware of other witnesses who could corroborate her claims, she has not yet identified those witnesses. Kavanaugh immediately denying the new allegations, saying in a statement, "This is ridiculous and from the Twilight Zone. I don't know who this is, and this never happened."
I'm asking you why, in this process, which has been so debased on both sides, why are people who have these serious allegations not going to law enforcement themselves and saying, take a look at this?
Attorneys for Mark Judge, also identified by Swetnick, saying Judge, quote, vehemently denies the allegations contained in the affidavit. The Judiciary Committee Republicans snapping quickly to attention to review and address the allegations, aides say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
While President Trump, taking a break from meetings at the UN, took aim at Swetnick's attorney, Michael Avenatti.
If you look at this lawyer that just came out, he's a lowlife. He represented Democrats. Nobody ever talks about that. He's a Democrat lawyer. Not a very good one, but he's a Democrat lawyer.
For their part, Democrats are calling for Thursday's hearing, where Kavanaugh and his first accuser, Christine Blasey Ford, will testify, to be suspended.
When the question of credibility is so much in doubt as it is now with Judge Kavanaugh,
Okay, so sorry guys. For some odd reason, Trump is just gonna let us be great. So So basically, as you saw from the video, it is almost crazy because the Republicans at this moment want to continue with the actual confirmation. And here's my thing. Keep in mind, these are the same Republicans that kept Barack Obama's pick, Merrick Garland, and he never got a hearing. He never got a hearing. He never got confirmation. He didn't get spit. Only because a black man as president was offering a Supreme Court pick was the only reason that the Republicans, mainly Turtle Man Mitch McConnell, decided to sit there and tell the president, no, we are not going to confirm your pick. And yet, when it comes to this, Mitch McConnell, Turtle Man, and by the way, not to get sidetracked, people in Kentucky, Mitch McConnell is your senator. Do us all a big favor next month. Pick someone else, anybody else. You're telling me that there's not one other person in Kentucky you can pick besides this turtle piece of shit? Because he has done nothing for you. He is literally one of the richest senators in the Senate. At the same time, Kentucky, you're like top 5 of the poorest states in the US. You have the highest rate of food stamp assistance. And yet this man is rich. Shouldn't that tell you off the bat that something is wrong? So again, not to get off sidetrack, but people of Kentucky, do the world a favor. Quit vote. I mean, thank you, Vaughn. Pick a crackhead. At least you'll know where he stands. But damn, anybody but Mitch McConnell. That's all I ask. Anybody but Mitch McConnell. But he and his group of Republicans are trying ever so desperately to get this person in, because they know if you can get a Supreme Court justice pick in, it is very hard to get them removed. That's the thing about it. The Supreme Court, once you're appointed, you either have to show ethical bias, or you had to murder somebody, or you have to die, is the only 3 ways you can be removed from the court. Aside from that, once he's in, he's Teflon. And that's the reason why a lot of people like Clarence Thomas, and I still say Clarence Thomas, still sexually assaulted Anita Hill. And that's where I'm going to go into a later part of this podcast. But Clarence Thomas was also in the same scrutiny. This man, you can argue at 6 Races Sunday. I still say he sexually assaulted Anita Hill. Because why else would a woman put herself through all that if not to be truthful about what she ran into? That's just my opinion. But this is the same situation, is that we're putting up another man who is literally and figuratively has so much clout around him. I'm like, it's one thing to have one allegation. Now you have 3. And, as I was doing this, and as I was saying this podcast, there may even be a 4th. And at the same time, you have way too much smoke. Too much smoke leads to a fire. And of course, the Democrats can do their best to hold off on this, but since the Senate is Republican, they're going to try. I mean, sorry guys. So they're going to try their hardest to get Kavanaugh nominated. But like I said, the simple fact of the matter is that there's so much hesitation behind this that it's just freaking scary that no one's going to sit there and go, hang on a second. We need to know what's going on before we let this man in. Because if he is guilty of all this, then hell no, he can't sit on the Supreme Court. He's ethically corrupted. You don't want an ethical corrupted individual on the highest court in the land, because they can influence a lot of decisions. That's why it's so important that these women need to be heard out first. But again, this goes right back to the Bill Cosby situation. We've heard every woman say all what happened to them that they believe what happened to Bill Cosby. Now it's time for these women to say the same thing about Kavanaugh. And the thing about it is, this is also the other part of what I wanted to get into. And this is the part that I find crazy. And I apologize in advance because this may kill some of your brain cells, because I know it kills mine every time I see this. But have you tried telling a Trump supporter about what's going on so far? I mean, have you really tried? I'm gonna play a little bit of this and feel free to be amazed.
It's expected. It's what they do for a living. Make up stories in the last hour, trying to wait to see if they can overturn the Senate so they don't elect him. It's good strategy.
So you think that they're making it up or she's making it up?
Oh, and it doesn't matter even if she isn't. Statute of limitations was over years ago.
But yeah, so it doesn't matter that her therapist notes corroborate kind of her accusations from 2012?
Not really.
Why do it now? You know, why not done it before when he was a judge, you know, in the White House?
Fabricate it all.
Because can you start again?
It says we could fabricate documents all day long.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Therapist notes?
Yeah, her therapist notes, like when she went to a therapist, she talked about it, and they're in there.
I haven't heard anything about that.
Thank you. A lot of the supporters I've spoken to say, well, that she should have reported it back then, which President Trump tweeted out today as well.
Absolutely. I mean, whenever you have a situation like that, she should have made a bigger deal of it. And I think she needs to be heard. But I also think that the Democrats shouldn't have held on to it for so long. It's ridiculous.
So you think that they were holding on to it until it was politically?
Absolutely. Just to stall out the entire process. This is a Democrats' playbook. If they don't like what they want, you know what they're going to do? They're gonna come at 35 years ago somebody. That's not rape allegations. She's accusing, oh, he did fondle me. Really, 35 years ago? This is a Democrat playbook, and everybody in America knows it.
The lady can't remember where it was. I'm surprised she remembers her name the way she's talking. You know, it's all hustle.
It's just his word against hers, and I'm sure she's making it up. I hate to say that, but I think she is. Most men are very compassionate towards women on something like that, and women aren't.
As a woman, I think it's horrible that she would bring this up 35, 36 years later. If she was really assaulted, she should have reported at the time. By waiting this length of time, she makes all women look bad.
What do you think about the statistics that say only 23% of sexual assaults are reported at the time? Like, why do you think that is?
Well, I've seen enough episodes of Law & Order SVU that that's probably correct.
Could I ask you about Kavanaugh and what you think about the Democrats blocking it?
I don't think it's right. I think there's a process in this country that we need to follow, and until we follow that, we don't have the right to reject or keep somebody from doing what they want to do.
Well, what do you think about what the Republicans did with Merrick Garland?
About what?
What the Republicans did first with Merrick Garland under the Obama presidency.
I don't really know what you're talking about.
Like they blocked Obama's Supreme Court nominee.
The Republicans did?
Yeah.
Well, I don't really have enough knowledge to speak about that, so.
36 years ago? Come on. High school? Come on. This would never happen to anyone if he wasn't in the position that he's in, you know.
You mean as a Trump nominee?
Yes, and also he's going to be a Supreme Court justice.
Yes. So the Republicans blocked Obama's Supreme Court Justice Merrick Garland, and he didn't have any real allegations or anything like that. Why is it not cool for the Democrats to do it now, but for the Republicans to do it back then?
Most people, the Democrats hate Trump with everything they have. They hate him.
I think Kavanaugh should get elected. I believe Democrats are wrong. I think whoever's for Trump ought to be in there. Whoever's on his side, doing the right.
Why didn't you bring it up years before he became a candidate for the Supreme Court? Why is she just now saying all of this stuff?
So apparently it's corroborated by therapist notes from 2012.
Well, she still should have brought it up sooner. And he's got all these people that are behind him. I don't know how many hundreds of letters of recommendation, other females.
I'm an attorney. I represent women of sexual abuse, and I'm very sympathetic to that cause. But I think it's incredibly unfair how they've trashed a man of stellar character his whole life. I think she needs to come forward and state her case and give him the opportunity to respond under oath.
So, oh God, I apologize. I apologize so much. Where do I begin? So many things wrong. Oh, just so many things. Okay, so let me. Oh, okay. Let me start. I apologize because I'm pretty sure as you guys are watching this, and yep, I see you already did, Vaughn. Damn, Sam's a Trump supporter. Oh, she sprayed somebody with. Okay, so let me point out a few things that I think need to be pointed out. Number one, there is no statute of limitations on rape, just like there's no statute of limitations on murder. There's not. There's not. If it happened 15 years ago, if it happened 20 years ago, if it happened 30 years ago, you can still come back and be tried for that crime. Because here's the thing: if sexual assault had a statute of limitations on it, how'd they get Cosby 40 years later? So again, bullshit. The whole thing about, it was a rally for Donald Trump, Vaughn, is where the Young Turks went to. So shout out to Young Turks for that video clip. But the thing about it is, which annoys me so, is the level of just outer disrespect. And you heard it. It's like, well, I've seen enough Law and Order to know what's going on. Bravo. You've watched the television show that is not accurate at all. That's like saying I know the law because I watch Cops. that doesn't mean that you have actual legality. And as you can see from Trump supporters, I mean, you heard most of them, and it's interesting where most of them have went along this line of, well, if she was sexually assaulted, then why didn't she go to the police? 23% of all sexual assaults are reported. Only 23%. When we know that number is way higher. But you're asking people who have been assaulted or raped or sexual battery, you're asking them to come forward after such a tragic fucking event that you think it's just easy for them to go walk into a police station and go, "Hi, officers, I've been sexually assaulted. I need to make a report." Hell no. I mean, granted, I can't fathom, albeit a man or a woman, I can't fathom how it would feel or how I would be in that situation, in that event that happened to somebody. I mean, I feel bad for anybody. My heart goes out to those folks who have went through that, because to sit there and downplay the simple fact of the matter of just that, well, it's just that easy for them to go to the cops. No, it's not. It is not easy. And that's the one thing Trump supporters and Trump and others of this misogynistic, pedophile, predator society will never admit. It's just that they will always see the person who cries wolf as the perpetrator, but they'll see the accused as the victim, only because they've been told that. Like, case in point, like I saw this on a Facebook page. That literally I almost wanted to sit there and lose my freaking mind. And I'll as soon as the thing pops up, so that way you guys can see it too. So give me 1 second to get it pulled up. Well, it's getting there. Someone bring me up to speed on tomfoolery of, oh, hey, BJ, how's it going? So what we're talking about, BJ, is right now is the what's going on as far as the Kavanaugh case, and that a third individuals came forward and said that they knew of sexual assault and things of that nature that involved them. But I just showed a video about Trump supporters, and they'll believe anything. And then I see stuff like this on Facebook, which kills me. And for all those that can't see, I'm trying to make it as big as I can. But if you can't see it, I'll read it out loud. It says, as long as women who accuse men of sexual attacks are believed without evidence or due process, no man is safe. I'm not safe. Your husband isn't safe. Your father isn't safe. Hashtag him too. Your son isn't safe. Your grandson isn't safe. Your male friends aren't safe. Hashtag I stand with Brett. Hashtag confirm Kavanaugh now. I can't begin to explain how ridiculously ignorant that is. Number one, it's character assassination. As I was talking about my previous podcast, when you do character assassination, you are literally trying to paint the narrative that the individual who is accusing said person, you're trying to tarnish their name. You're trying to make them look bad enough to where their credibility is tarnished. And therefore, at the end of it all, the person who's accused comes out smelling like a rose, and the person who accused them now looks like the villain. It's role reversal, and it's terrible. It is downright despicable. And then you got people out there talking about him too. And I understand. Before a lot of folks, and I know there's going to be a lot of people that look at this podcast and go, well, there's a lot of women out there that make false rape accusations. And you're right. This ain't it. Because again, I've always sat there and said it best. There needs to be rules put in place to where due process should take hand. And if a person is found guilty, then they're processed to the extent of the law. That's how it should be. In the same sense that if they're found not guilty, then the person who accused them should face the same penalty. In a perfect world, that's how it should work. But in this sense, there's way too much shit around this so-called judge to where it is literally and figuratively a lot of smoke. And that's the thing about it. And it's just like, and you're right, BJ, justice doesn't count for those who support Kavanaugh and Baby Huey. And that's what I was talking about earlier, because, you know, as I said earlier in the podcast, Cosby was found guilty and sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison. And yet so many others who are white, who have had such said crimes as Bill Cosby are still free. But with this Kavanaugh person, there's just so much about what's going on that it has to be to a point to where someone the brakes need to be put on. So many words, the brakes need to be put on. It's like saying, okay, 1 allegation, we need to look into it. 3, hold up. That's like, once you get to 3, that's like, okay, dude, hold up. We need to see where all this is. We need to get some answers. Before we let you just pass on, there needs to be answers at this point, because now it's 3 women. Now it's almost like, you know, 3 kills makes a killer a serial killer. If you have 3 women coming forward and saying you did some shit, then yeah, we need to investigate that before you go any farther. That's how it should be. And, you know, you can sit there and go, well, what about that? Well, these women were drunk, or this woman waited 20 years, and this woman did this woman went to her therapist. What the fuck does it matter? If you want ethically well people to be put on the highest court in the United States, then they need to be properly vetted, which in this case fails on the chairman of the judicial community, because he should have vetted all this shit. But again, the last of all play about Kavanaugh before we move on to the other part what I want to talk about is the fact that, like I said, it kills me about what the Republicans are trying to do. And I love this part where you would think, because of the nature of these things, that they would find a better way to sit there and say this. But I'll let Turtle Man explain it for himself.
I believe he'll be confirmed, yes.
You are, all of you standing here today, all men, everyone on the Judiciary Committee, all men. You don't have women making decisions about Judge Kavanaugh. What message does that send to the American people?
We're looking for the truth here. I don't think because you happen to be a male, you're disqualified from listening to the evidence, and making a decision based upon the evidence. As I said earlier, and I think you already know, we have hired a female assistant to go on staff and to ask these questions in a respectful and professional way. We want this hearing to be handled very professionally, not a political sideshow like you saw the put on by the Democrats when they were questioning Judge Kavanaugh.
Who said the women who are accusing Kavanaugh of misconduct are lying?
I think we ought to take everyone seriously. We're going to have the hearing on Thursday. That's to give us enough evidence of a way to evaluate the 2 people who could be the only people who apparently know anything about this. Listen to the evidence, evaluate the situation, and then vote.
Okay, so the weird part about this is, I love how Turtle Man had sat there and said, you know, because the reporter brought up a very interesting point, that the 11 guys, or right, the 11 Republican senators right behind him were all men. And the reporter points out a very, very interesting point, the fact that you're all men listening to a woman's accusations toward one of your Supreme Court picks, does that not say something? And of course, Turtle Man goes, well, I don't think that. I think that a man can sit there and I think a man can listen to what he's been told, and I think that well, he should be able, because right now we're just trying to determine the truth. Okay, and then you followed up with the most. We hired a female assistant. Turtle Man BJ is Mitch McConnell. That's what I meant to say. Sorry about that. So Turtle Man is, when I say Turtle Man BJ, I mean Mitch McConnell. That's the guy I'm talking about. So anytime I say Turtle Man, it's Mitch McConnell, because every time I look at him, I swear he looks like a turtle whose shell was lost a long time ago and decided to be human. That's what it looks like to me. But it's amazing where he sat there and he goes, well, I think, and he stands on it. That's what I loved about that. He stood on the fact of, well, I think a man can sit there and determine what's going on, but you're hired a female assistant. Why couldn't you just sit there and say, we hired an independent investigator to look into the matter and be able to provide us what they believe is either believing the accused or believing the person who's accusing. But instead, he goes, we hired a female assistant. This goes right back into this misogynistic view of these guys in power. Is that, what if this was about black people? Could you imagine if he sat there and said, we're going to hire a black assistant, and that black assistant's going to look into these things, these black people, and he's going to get right back to us. Yes, he is. Again, you would think somebody on the Republican side would just go, of all the things you could say, female assistant? And the thing about Mitch McConnell is, and like I said, people in Kentucky, I am begging you in November, please vote for somebody else. But it amazes me because, like I said, now it's moving forward to as far as being investigated. The independent investigator that they've hired is a prosecutor who has questionable history because she was investigating crimes involving the Catholic Church and priests. Which is also an interesting point that I also want to point out before I get to my next clip, is where a lot of people want to sit there and say, why do they wait so long? So here's the one thing I noticed, because you guys have probably already seen yourselves that the Catholic Church is under investigation because so many individuals who were sexually assaulted by priests are coming forward. I find it funny that men who come forward and explain that they've been sexually assaulted by a priest never get questioned. Never get questioned. A man in his 40s and 50s can come back and say, Father so and so touched him in the inappropriate places, and yet no one questions him. A woman comes forward and says a man did all these things to her. Suddenly she's under the microscope instead of the said person. And that's the problem. The problem is that due process seems to only go one way. It seems to go on a one-way street. And that's why it's so much harder for women to come forward. And this clip that I found, I personally believe actually does highlight a lot of the fact of not only women, but also men too, of the reason why they're having such a hard time. Okay, so basically that alone should tell you exactly what we're dealing with here. Hi, Carly. Yeah, you're late, but it's okay. Thanks for watching, Carla. So you're right, BJ. I mean, I can say it goes for rich white dudes only, but I think only if enough stank is raised to the point to where they finally, get into it as far as that. But let me say this before we move on to the next part of this. After I saw that, because the hashtag why did not what's up with Skinamax porno music, they're really bonus what you got from that. But here's what I say from this. Okay, it is amazing. I won't say it's amazing. It's sad. It's sad that we are in a society to where so many people can't come forward. And you saw from the video, I mean, the list of reasons why. Some feared retaliation, some were threatened with death. Some were, I was drinking. I had had sex before, so the lawyer would just make me look like a slut, and I would fear my reputation and things of that nature. Or and the one thing that stood out to me, the one thing that truly stood out to me in that entire thing was one of the reasons why I said that was they sat there and said the reason why I didn't report it was that I wouldn't be believed. That's heartbreaking. Like I said, I can't relate. I can't even imagine what an individual like that would go through. But again, for that to happen to you, and the one thing in your mind is just that you wouldn't be believed if you went to the police and explained that you've been assaulted or raped and things of that nature. And it's fucking scary. I mean, it's beyond it's heartbreaking. I mean, like I said, I mean, if it was me and my sisters, God forbid, told me that happened to them, and I knew the name of that guy who did it, I would probably be in jail with a smile on my face, but I'd probably be in jail. I'm just being honest. But it's scary that the society that we live in covers up the pedophiles and they cover up the predators, but they make it harder for those who have been hurt and assaulted and raped to come forward. And that's crazy. And we say, BJ, I wish every woman would learn at least one form of self-defense so they can protect themselves when situations like this happen. Yeah, I mean, but also at the same time, though, a lot of these situations, I'm not speaking for all situations, but a lot of these situations usually occur when a lot of people's guards are down. Like I said, a lot of these situations where, like I said, like in the previous video, it said one where they said, well, it was my boyfriend, or one was a friend of the family, or one was a professor. A lot of these cases, when looked into, seem to be from an area to where a woman individual's guard is down. So I mean, I would love to say that. I mean, like I said, I would love to think that the avenues, I always say the avenues for people to come forward should be open. And okay, sorry about that. So basically, in that situation, I mean, I understand what you're saying, BJ. If that was my sister, that happened to somebody, gotta die. Hey, I'm with you, dude. I'd be ready to bury him. That's just me. I mean, my idea of it is that they have just forfeited their right to live. But I mean, granted, like I said, probably be in jail with a smile on my face. But at the same time, it to me is where the avenues for where folks should be able to come forward with situations like this need to be open more. They need to be open because, like I said, if we take away the fear of them coming forward, then a lot more stories come out, and then we can change the narrative on this. But it doesn't seem to be the case to where, I mean, it is changing. We are moving forward somewhat, not as fast as I would like it to be, but we are getting there. But like I said, this just to me sticks with me more because so many voices out there need to be heard and they won't because out of fear that it'll impact their lives and the person that did this to them gets away with it, and that hurts the spirit, man. There's just no way around that. But trying to switch to a different gear is, like I said, every story that we're going over with, and we don't got too many of these left, so just bear with me, guys. So the next story is kind of going into the situation where I said about perception. No matter what, it never ceases to amaze me that folks say they don't think, when actually you do, and your perceptions show off your actions, much like this one.
I had no idea that I was offending people. Imagine how many kids already done seen that doll.
So, yeah. So in that sense alone should tell you exactly perception. If that alone should sit there and say an individual hangs a Kaepernick doll in supposedly, well, they said, well, it's Hangtown, and that's the nature of the barbershop. Okay, so let me understand this. The nature of the barbershop is that I didn't see any other dolls hanging, but I see a hanging Kaepernick doll. Perception is what you make of it. And like I said, if I go in, like any black person, if you ever went into a gas station, a store, or anything, and you saw something that made you uncomfortable, 9 times out of 10, you probably left, especially if you're in the one place that we're outnumbered, like Pulaski, Tennessee, or Jasper, Texas, or any other spot that is more on the lines of white supremacy than you know. And Pulaski, Tennessee is one of them. Like I said about Pulaski, Tennessee, like I say about a lot of other places in Tennessee, but pretty much anything around the mountain ranges, you don't want to be there up to dark. But okay, sorry about that, guys. So if I see something like that Kaepernick, if I see something along that nature of just like, if I see a doll hanging, of course it's not gonna get my business. No, ain't no way in hell it's getting my business. Why? Because you have just made your perception known. You have sat there and said you see no problem with this doll hanging, and I just thought to myself, okay, so if a kid sees it, you again. Like the story went on, the kid was facing hate crimes because he was trying to hang black kids. And then he goes, I was trying to see how many I could hang. Ignorance alone. Ignorance is taught. Telling a kid that it's perfectly okay to hang a black kid, whoever teaches that, you should be hanged. No, matter of fact, no, you shouldn't be hanged. You should get the shit kicked out of you every day for the rest of your life. Because I don't want you, I don't want to wish death on that. No, I want you to learn the lesson. I wish that you get the shit kicked out of you on a daily basis, because that is the punishment. That you get to live every day watching your ass get kicked. But not death. Because you don't learn anything. You'll learn something on a daily basis that you're putting up a sign that says it's okay to hang black people. And like I said, I was telling folks, I said, at that point, don't march. If the damage has been done, hit him where it hurts. His wallet. I mean, case in point, the one thing I would say about protesting, I said, if you guys still want to march, if you guys still want to march and protest, that's fine. I say at one point, step the game up. Because a lot of this stuff is simple fact of the matter is, if we hit them where it hurts, which is their wallet, that's when it changes. That's when you get people's attention, because we can sit there and protest morals all we want to, but when we hit that almighty dollar, oh, we'll see some change then. Trust me on that. Because we can sit there and say Nike backed Kaepernick as the right thing to do, but Nike backed Kaepernick at the same time still was banking off that. I mean, Nike raked in $6 billion more when they branded Kaepernick as their main guy. So I would like to say Nike's taking a stand. I would like to say Nike's also an opportunist. I'm just saying. I mean, if corporation sees money somewhere, they are going to take it and run with it. That's just the truth of it is. But also another thing I wanted to bring up. I wanted to make this toward the end of this lighthearted, and because we just got through talking about the misogynistic nature of this country and the fact that pedophiles and predators are better protected than victims. But I wanted to bring up something that I think will make everybody laugh, and I know I was laughing, but I wanted to bring it up because this is what Donald Trump said to the UN. And I'm going to start from there, and this is going to include this. But I think you guys remember when Donald Trump tweeted that we shouldn't have a president the world was laughing at? Yeah, watch this.
Nobody respects us. They're laughing at us. They are laughing at us. They're laughing at us. They're laughing at us. We don't want other leaders and other countries laughing at us anymore. And they won't be. They won't be. In less than 2 years, my administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country. Didn't expect that reaction, but that's okay.
Yeah. Think about that. Guys, think about that for a second. Trump just turned around and told the United Nations that his administration has done more than any other administration before him in his first term. I'd be laughing too, especially if I was the guy in Germany. The guy in Germany had tears in his eyes because he didn't expect them to laugh. I'm like, yes, Donald Trump, you are delusional as shit. Because here's what he stood up on, and I still think it's funny. He stands up on the fact that the stock market is up, which is not true. The stock market's down. The only time it was up was before the tariffs hit. Now the tariffs hit, the stock market's down, so that's false. He claims unemployment for blacks, minorities to be at their lowest in history. Again, that was from President Obama. The effect of it is just riding out to now, because under President Obama, there was actually 84 months of consecutive job growth, which led to lower employment rates. Trump's effect hasn't taken effect yet. So again, that's bullshit. And then he's going to turn around and sit there and say that, we're bringing jobs back, when in fact we've actually lost. And then at the funny part, Trump is also going to sit there and say that he lowered the deficit. No, my friend, you increased it by $88 trillion. $88 trillion has been added more to the deficit. The only thing he can sit there and say is he added more to the deficit than any other president has done in his first term. But the simple fact of the matter is that this man turned around and sat there and said that his administration has done more in a single term than any other president before. Okay, so let's point some things out here. Franklin Delano Roosevelt got us out of the Great Depression and signed the New Deal. That itself was monumental. Lyndon B. Johnson signed Social Security into effect. George Bush the first signed into Medicare to actually cover prescriptions for elderly. We can go into even more recent. We'll go to President Obama. We'll go to the simple fact of the matter is that we actually had comprehensive health care. We had the American health care law, which actually keeps people from the precondition of not getting health care. We actually did lower. President Obama again put in EPA listings to actually limit dumping of coal and nuclear waste and actually cut down on emissions in our political footprint. He also included other services that are, I mean, to put it in perspective, the black guy did more in 4 years. The black guy did more in actually 12 months than what Trump did in almost 2 years. It's laughable. It is laughable that a man so delusional as Baby Huey, I know you call him Baby Huey, BJ, but I call him Agent Orange. But Agent Orange is so freaking delusional that it amazes me so that he thinks he's doing a great job. Now, here's the funny part. When I say it goes back to perception again, because Fox News with that same clip I just showed you, okay? So let me show you what Fox News did, because Fox News thinks they were slick. So this is what Fox News was showing from their station.
In less than 2 years, my administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country.
Yep, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. What you saw there was true. Fox News turned around and edited the clip. So they wanted to show that he made the statement. They didn't want to show that the UN laughed at him. Keep in mind, Fox News is watched. Fox News is watched by people, and they'll never. And you know what the funny part is? I guarantee if you go out tomorrow and you sit there and tell people, hey, so did you see the clip about the UN laughing at Trump? You'll find one Fox News watcher will sit there and go, that is fake news. They didn't laugh at him. Y'all just saw something that the Democrats put out to make our president look bad. That is fake news. No, what you're watching is fake news. We're watching the actual stuff. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if you do find that one individual out there that's going to sit there and say that it didn't happen when we all know the truth. So I figured that would be the funny. I figured we needed something funny. Now I wanted to bring something funny in that. And the fact of the matter is that was funny that a president who has literally done nothing but actually add debt, gave us a tax plan that's actually for the rich, eliminated the middle class, and basically made the income gap wider than the Grand Canyon, is laughable that he's going to sit there and say that he accomplished something. The only thing that he accomplished, the simple fact of the matter is that he didn't assault somebody today. That's an accomplishment, but that's all he's going to get. So moving right along as far as that goes. So I guess so for all you guys don't remember, for all you guys who don't know about Botham Jean, the murder of Botham Jean. I mean, we can sit there and call it manslaughter if we want to, but let's call it what it was. It was a murder. So for all those that may or may not know, let me pull this clip up so that way you guys could see what's going on with it so far before I talk about it for a few minutes. So let's see if it plays.
He went to his grave never knowing why the police officer came into his apartment and shot him.
Okay, so that's interesting. So, all right. So apparently Trump is not wanting to get that done. All right. So sorry, guys. So basically what happened with that is that Amber Geiger, the woman who murdered Botham Jean, has now been fired from the Dallas Police Department. For anybody who doesn't remember, during a conference last week, the police chief in Dallas pretty much was asked, why is Amber Geiger still on the payroll? Because although she's been suspended, she's been on administrative leave, she was still being paid. And of course, the police chief, who was a black woman, decided to give some bullshit answers. By bullshit, I mean she says there's civil law and procedures that had to be done in place, and an internal investigation will need to be done first before she can be fired. All of it true. However, she failed to mention one itty bitty tiny little detail. And the fact that the police chief of Dallas does have the power to fire any law enforcement officer without having to do the internal investigation or anything of that nature. They can bypass all of that and fire them as long as within their judgment. So yes, Miss Police Chief, you could have fired Amber Geiger on the spot. You didn't have to wait for an internal investigation, in which they did. Internal investigation was completed. Amber Geiger is no longer a law enforcement officer, which a lot of people are like, it took longer. I mean, Amber, it took longer for that to happen. I mean, at this point, the people who were protesting Amber Geiger had a harder time getting out of jail for protesting than she did for getting arrested, booked, then getting released, and then also being fired a week later. And I understand that's what we wanted, but we wanted it immediately because the woman had confessed to killing this young man. And no matter how you cut it, it's not manslaughter, it's murder. But the simple fact of the matter is that the police, and I call it the fact of the police chief wanting to cover her ass. Just like the DA, who was also a black woman, sat there and asked the Dallas community to remain calm as we tried to find out the truth. I'm sorry. What truth is there? What truth is there needed? She sat there and admitted she killed a man. She sat there and admitted that she went to the wrong apartment. She sat there and admitted, for the simple fact of the matter is, instead of actually using police skills, she went for the one time. She murdered a man. What more is there to look into except to throw the book at her? She's no longer a cop, so it should be easy. It shouldn't take this long. But like I said, cops protect their own. And also another story I wanted to bring up, and I'm going to try to bring this last one up to see if it'll let me do it, because I don't know, with the video this tonight and everything else is going on, I am surprised I haven't froze up yet. Knock on wood. So let me play this, because this was actually another video, like I said, of police to where it worries me so. So let me see if this will play. We're going to cross our fingers.
Angry. A certain amount of anxiety goes along with serving time when you're innocent. Like was mentioned before, you can't hardly find a job, finding housing, to just testament with your family, spend so many years away. It's just hard. It's hardship all the way around. See, and that right there, that part where you guys sat there and saw that 500 convictions through this corrupt cop and his team, 500 convictions, 42 have been exonerated.
So still at least a good 470 something. At least that. I mean, like I said, at least 500 convictions that they know of. 42 of them had already been found and vetted and found out to be false. And these are guys, and like I said, I'm not saying that every conviction was legit, but the thing about it is that kills me is just that if a cop is found to be corrupt, that means anything tied to him is not evidence anymore. That's what it should be. Anything tied to a corrupt cop is thrown out. Fruit of the poisonous tree, as they call it. Because a DA can't go with that. I mean, not a smart DA. They're not going to go with that. It's like saying, you're a corrupt cop and you didn't get him the right way. I can't use this. I can't convict him. And this cop gets 22 months. He is... Let me get this straight. And this is the problem I have with the justice system at this moment. It's just that not only do predators and pedophiles seem to get away with murder at this point, you're telling me a cop who extorted people, planted drugs on them, extorted money, drugs, and guns, and you're going to sit there and tell me that the only reason he was caught is because he happened to run across an FBI undercover officer. And after all said and done, this man only gets 22 months in prison. Who knows how many lives this man and his team have destroyed? And he only gets 22 months? I'm sorry, he should be getting life in prison. You destroyed a life, therefore your life is forfeit. Let the punishment fit the crime. That's how it should be. I'm not asking for the man to die, but I'm asking for this man that the rest of his life should be over because he ruined so many. But this is why I sit there and say, the one thing I cannot stand is the fact of the matter is just that when it comes to this kind of stuff, it never ceases to amaze me that when we want justice, it seems to be like it's almost like us going uphill with a stone boulder getting pulled back by a tractor. Sure, we can keep pushing, but we still have this overwhelming force that's pulling us back. But when we see those that have been sworn to protect and serve, and those that have been sent to Congress to work for us, it's almost like, the game is rigged. And we know who's rigged it. Now, I would love to sit there and say that, maybe things are changing. Like I said, when it comes to sexual assault and rape, I wish it is my intention, and it's my intention to bring light to it. It's my intention to bring awareness to it. But I hope that those who unfortunately have went through that, the victims, I hope they can come forward without fear. I hope they can come forward and be able to tell their story. And I hope the person that they did it to gets the book thrown at them. I mean, I could hope for worse, but I want them to go into that due process because that's what's put in place for. In the same sense that I want these cops who are corrupt out here and playing drugs, because it wasn't just Chicago. Trust me, they're everywhere. And the funny thing about the fraternities, this is why I say the mob and the police have one thing in common. They never do rat out their own. They'll take care of their own. They'll never rat out their own. And you're right, BJ. The cop, no, he better be out the country because folks, well, I don't know, because he may have already been in jail at the time of this publication because it was just recently. So he might still be up for sentencing. But for this whole week, we can't sit there and say beyond a shadow of a doubt that, frankly, we hope for things to change. That's what we need to do right now. If you're, like I said, if you're in political office trying to change things, cool. If you're someone who's doing a movement like Stand for Students, like my friend Daiquiri is doing, cool. You're finding areas to where you can take a platform, be heard, and try to make change. That's the thing about it, be active. So I will end this podcast saying this. Kentucky people, please vote for anybody else than Mitch McConnell. And Tennessee, let me be honest. Blackburn is nothing more than a male Mitch McConnell. And I, as a Tennessean, can't see any reason to vote for it. But if you feel so inclined to vote, the only thing I do ask is that you guys honestly look and research in these candidates. But above all else, vote come this November, because lack of voting is what got us in this situation. And I know when you people talk about voting, well, voting doesn't count and all this crap. Okay, let's just try it the other. Let's just try it. Just try it, and then you can sit there and say, well, A, B, or C if it didn't work or not. But aside from that, guys, this is all I'm saying. We have to try. And that's all I'm going to get from that. But I'm going to end the podcast here on that note. Thank you all, guys, for all watching. Thank you, BJ. Thank you, Bon. Thank you, Carla, and everybody else who didn't talk, which I'm pretty sure you're going to talk later. That's fine, because that's what I want to do. We want to include the conversation, let everybody know what's going on. So some shameless plugging before I actually get off the shindig. So like I was speaking to Vaughn also has podcasts as well. He also has the I Get That Reference VSTs. If you know what a VST is, it's the 30-minute podcast where he just goes over various news and things of that nature, which you find interesting. And of course, an interactive show like mine. He also has Rhythmness, where you can remember this, the rhythm, where he takes certain albums and goes over to a 3-tier system. Actually, it's a 4-tier system, but we can't see what the 4-tier here is. If you want to find that out, you'll have to go on to Rhythmness and actually listen for it. He also has Random as Fuck with Uncle VZ, which is just him going over weird videos and questions. And like I said, all of his shows, like mine, are interactive to where you'll be able to talk and things of that nature. I also have my other buddy Trace, who has the Bump Down, which is also a musical show where he goes over what's hot on the charts and what's not, and also just different things that the subjects he likes to talk about, along with him and Vaughn, and sometimes myself on the show, because usually I'll be on the chat in there, going along right with him. Aside from this show, I usually have How the Frack We Got Here, which is usually every Wednesday from 9 to 10 p.m. I do have my Off Limits podcast, which will also be on every Saturday from 2 to 3 p.m. as well. All of our shows, if you're on Facebook, can be found under the Facebook group I Get That Reference. It's where all of our shows are. The group is open to all. The only thing that we ask is that you do participate, which means that you just post or reply, start a question. Basically, just be social. That's all we ask you to do. Don't be a creeper and don't say nothing. Just actually be social with us. Aside from that, we do have YouTube pages. If you look up the Bump Down, if you look up I Get That Reference, if you look up How the Frack We Got Here, and also look up Off Limits. All of these YouTube pages have all of our podcasts so far. If you want to like, share, and subscribe, and like I said, we're just trying to build up this network because we like the fact of what we're doing, and we're trying to build into something that's informative and positive and things of that nature. So if you guys back us up, we'll back you up. And like I said, we're all about supporting each other. Support your own. That's what we truly do believe in. And also another thing, audiomac.com. Let's try that again. Vaughn, if you're still on this, could you please put in the link for audiomac.com, because I can't remember it all together, which is Vaughn's audiomac.com actually has an audio clipping of his VSTs. So if you can't watch the video in its entirety, you can listen to it via audio and go from there. But aside from that, guys, this has been How the Frack We Got Here. Looking forward to Off Limits podcast this Saturday. I hope you guys have a good day. Thank you for all watching here on the playback. And like I said, like, share, and subscribe, and we'll go from there. Till then, peace.